What is up, EOS community? Welcome everyone to the EOS Fireside Chat for August 2nd, 2023. We've got a great show for you today. Some of the top developers in the EOS space are joining us today. We got 9 topics, 6 speakers. We'll be kicking off the show with some Antelope 5.0 features discussion with none other than Gnome and Areg. And then following that up with Nathan James talking about a new EOS developer Twitter handle that recently surfaced at Build on EOS. And then we'll quickly touch on the Futurist conference going on in Toronto. Some of the ENF people are going to be there, some of the EOS community, other EOS community members as well. Pomelo Season 6 analysis report was just released. We'll cover the highlights. There's some important milestones that were reached for Wharf today. Aaron will be talking to us about that. And then, of course, we'll do the EOS EVM roundup. There's an app called Owlando that is powered by EOS. I'll be giving a quick recap of that article that was recently published. Gate.io integrates EOS EVM. Zach will be talking a bit about what that means for the network, and also another integration with Pyth network as an oracle. And then our last topic is a quick shout out to the ENF China team for their YouTube review of the Q2 report. And then, of course, open mic for our community. Off-topic banter, you guys want to talk about Curve maybe, whatever it is, that's what will be on the agenda. All right, so let's jump right into our top story of the day, Antelope 5.0 features, and I'm going to just hand off the mic to Guillaume and Areg as they give us a little bit of an overview about what's coming in Antelope 5.0. Guillaume, are you with us right now?
Yes, I am.
All right. Welcome back to the Fireside. Seems like you're becoming a bit of a regular guest lately. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure a lot others are enjoying it. So thanks for joining us again today.
My pleasure. Always great to be here. So I guess I'll let Areg start because like you said, I've been here quite often in the last few weeks. So I'll let Areg start. Maybe you can give us a bit of an update, not update, but a bit of an overview on what we've been working on. Can tell the community what we've been up to. I think they'd love to hear it from you.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I haven't been here for a little while. Busy with development and working on features. So I'm going to give an update on what's coming up with Leap 5.0. A lot of my time now is spent on EOS EVM, but beyond that, focused on still supporting Leap and particularly on instant finality that I've been working closely with Guillaume on. So Leap 5.0, Antelope Leap 5.0, this is the second hard fork release that we're doing as far as the ENF has done for EOS. So the first one was Leap 3.1. That was the one that kind of split us off from the old code base and signaled to everyone that EOS is now separated from the past, and the community is now driving development of the code. So if you remember, that was last year, September, late September, that the feature was activated, the protocol features. And so now, a year later, or a little more than a year later, we're planning another hard fork release, and that's what will be included in Leap 5.0. The main feature in Leap 5.0 is instant finality, which is, I guess, what Guillaume and I are going to talk about right now a little bit, go into that a little bit. There are other features as well, but that's the most exciting one really is instant finality. I will mention one other thing that is close to me as far as a secondary feature, though, in 5.0. I won't mention them all. One of them is selectively leveraging EOS VM OC. So we've long had EOS VM OC, OC standing for Optimized Compiler, as a separate runtime beyond the baseline of EOS VM JIT that is better optimizing the WASM contracts that are deployed on chain to make them run faster. And that has been an option available for nodes to run, private networks to run, but we have recommended and still continue to recommend that BPs and some other nodes on a public network do not run it because there's some edge cases, some issues that could be a concern on a public network where anyone could just deploy a contract. However, with 5.0, we are introducing the ability to selectively leverage EOS EVM OC, which could then allow all nodes to use that to speed up particular contracts that are managed by the BPs, the ones that are deployed on the accounts starting with EOSIO dot as a prefix. And so that's particularly exciting because the EOS EVM is deployed on the account EOSIO.EVM. And so this was actually the primary purpose for why we've prioritized this for 5.0 is that we could leverage EOS VM OC to speed up EOS EVM, the EOS EVM contract, and get even greater performance from that. So I'm really excited about that. There are a few other smaller features as well that are already done, kind of included as part of that. But the most exciting feature is this instant finality feature, which is a consensus upgrade. It's actually a really big upgrade. It's the first time in EOS's history that we're changing the consensus algorithm. So yeah, I think with that, I'll maybe hand off back to Gnome so you can talk about instant finality.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. I guess introduction to that new feature. I've heard a little bit through the grapevine, and I'm also very excited about the selective EOS VM OC. That's something that's going to be really cool for a number of purposes. So really excited to see that come to life as well. Coming back to instant finality, this is something we've been working on for quite a while now, and we're really in the thick of it now. We discussed it a little bit on I think a couple of weeks ago, but there's just so much to talk about that feature. There's we call it instant finality. This is the name that typically people have been using to refer to this upgrade. But in reality, what we're really doing is we're introducing the hot stuff consensus mechanism to Leap. And the hot stuff consensus mechanism is an algorithm that was developed back in the day in 2018 by VMware. I think I've mentioned that on the previous Fireside Chat, but just as a refresher. And it was selected by the Libra cryptocurrency project that was sponsored by Facebook, and that didn't ended up seeing the light of day. But that was at their conclusion, as they spent all that time to do research on various consensus mechanisms, and they selected that one because I had some very, very interesting properties, and it was really one of the, I guess, state-of-the-art consensus models out there, and it still is today. That's still probably one of the best, if not the best, that currently exists. And when we started working on the instant finality proposal, Areg and I were discussing various options, and Areg actually was a very big proponent of hot stuff, and convinced me essentially to basically like build instant finality on hot stuff. At the time, I was considering doing something that looked a little bit more like Casper, the Ethereum 2.0 consensus model. But after a few discussions with Areg, it became very clear that hot stuff was the main contender, and probably most definitely a better choice. So thank you, Areg, for convincing me. I was a little bit skeptical at first, but didn't take too long. And now I'm very glad we're doing it that way. And there's beyond instant finality, which is definitely a great feature to have block finality that occurs near instantly. The hot stuff consensus algorithm has this property called optimistic responsiveness, which allows you to, as a network, to reach finality pretty much as fast as the network will allow it. So it's kind of you have to do a few back and forths between your finalizer nodes, the nodes that will decide on the finality status of a block or proposal. But it essentially allows you to reach that finality state as fast as the network will allow. So this is quite interesting, because most of the other consensus models out there, they have it basically takes a certain period of time that is usually like fixed, or that like a specific interval that is required to wait until all the nodes agree on the finality status of a block. But here we're essentially able to do it as fast as we can, as the network will allow it. So that's why we call it instant finality. It's really as fast as the network will allow. And of course, in some scenarios, it will also be probably even faster. Like if you're running this on a private chain, or if you're running this on a testnet that has very tight meshing between your nodes, you can theoretically reach finality even before the next block is being produced, at least in theory. So this is quite fascinating in terms of I guess like a piece of technology. Like when you're able to reach finality that fast, that's really nice. But this is just one of the benefits of hot stuff. We've discussed a little bit. I think 2 weeks ago we discussed also what it allowed us to do in terms of governance options, if you want, because now we're essentially creating, or we're decomposing, if you want, the role.
Am I the only one?
No, I'm having trouble hearing Guillaume as well.
Yep, same here.
I can tell you in Costa Rica we're having a little trouble with the internet.
Yeah, I don't even think Guillaume can hear us at this point. Maybe I'll mute him for a little bit. Areg, if you want to.
Yeah, I can try to continue. I think what Guillaume was just about to start talking about was the decoupling of different roles that are currently handled by a single entity, the block producer. So in hot stuff, there are distinct responsibilities we can describe. So one is a block proposer. So the block proposer would be the entity that aggregates transactions that are coming into a block in a certain order, and that's a block that can be added to the blockchain. And that doesn't mean it's final. It's just a proposal. Another role is block finalizers. So block finalizers are the actual key holders that sign to confirm a block. And if there are sufficient signatures kind of spread across phases, then according to the consensus algorithm, a proposed block can be considered final, and it comes with proof. It comes with aggregated signatures that act as a proof to any user that, according to the consensus algorithm, this block is final. And when a block is final, it means that all prior blocks in the chain up to that point and all the transactions within them are also final. They're irreversible is another, I guess, synonym for that is more common in the Antelope side of things. And then a third responsibility is, specifically in hot stuff, is consensus leader. And the consensus leader is coordinating with the block finalizers to generate that final proof, which we could call a quorum certificate, which is basically, you can think of it as a signature that convinces the rest of the world that this block is final. But to get to that point requires multiple iterations, multiple rounds of back and forth communication between the consensus leader and the block finalizer. Particularly in hot stuff, it requires 3 phases of back and forth communication. So the consensus leader is the entity that aggregates all of the block finalizers' signatures. We're leveraging BLS signatures, which has this wonderful property that you can take as many signatures as you want and aggregate them together into one signature that effectively captures the signature of all the participants in one cryptographic signature. So it does that process and then returns it back to the people to then build on top of that 2 more times before we get a final quorum certificate that acts as proof of finality. So those are the roles. And right now, you could, with the current consensus algorithm, you can think of the block producer in EOS as playing as acting in all of those 3 roles. It certainly is the block proposer. The signature that is added onto that block also acts as a block finalization signature, according to the existing consensus algorithm. And the consensus leader isn't really necessary in the current consensus algorithm as a role. It's more just the block. So this is actually the reason why hot stuff is so much faster than our current algorithm. The current algorithm has the process of all the block finalizers signing for whichever phase spread across multiple blocks. So you're limited to one block or every half second as an opportunity for one block finalizer, block producer, in this case, providing their signature. And then that aggregates over time. And there's 2 phases of that before you have essentially accumulated enough signatures for a validating node to now know that this block, at this point, 300 so blocks back in the history of the chain is now considered final, which is why you see this lag of 300 something blocks. And what's worse is that scales with the number of block finalizers or block producers. So in EOS, with 21 block producers, that means if you do the math, it works out to about a 3-minute gap between the head block and the last irreversible block. But with hot stuff, all this stuff is happening as fast as network conditions allow. So all of the block finalizers are signing in parallel at the same time, and they're sending the messages to the consensus leader. And there's a few more rounds of that necessary, but they're happening as soon as the prior round is done. You don't have to wait until a block is produced with the event-driven hot stuff that we're basing this new consensus algorithm on. And so that does require this other role of a consensus leader to manage that. But what it gives us is basically a very fast time to finality, or very low time to finality. So that's a difference, a key difference between the old and new algorithm, which explains why this one is much faster. But anyway, going back to the roles, so the block producer, effectively a consensus leader, isn't necessary, but the block proposer and block finalizer roles were combined in a single role that we call the block producer. So with hot stuff, we have the opportunity to decouple those. It doesn't mean you have to decouple those. And just to be clear, with the 5.0 upgrade, we are continuing to bundle all of those roles together in just the block producers that are selected in the same way, according to DPoS, as they have always been. So this is a point that's maybe a little confusing to people, but the way I like to think of it is the consensus algorithm, which is what we're really changing in 5.0, is this, it's this algorithm that determines finality given a set of consensus participants. It does not tell you how you should determine that set of consensus participants. It doesn't tell you how you should divide up the roles across different entities. It's just the core computer science parts of things. The consensus mechanism, how I define it, is this broader concept that builds on top of the consensus algorithm and adds all of the other stuff, like how do you decide on a block proposer or a block finalizer? How do you decide which ones to select? Is there staking involved? Is there voting involved? Is there penalties? The economics of all that get brought in. So we haven't really given a name. Some people called it ABFT for the existing consensus algorithm, but there's an existing consensus algorithm in Antelope. And then on top of that, there's this consensus mechanism that uses it and selects the block producers using what is a mechanism that is called DPoS, delegated proof of stake. With 5.0, we are changing the consensus algorithm part of that to a new one that's based on hot stuff, but we're keeping the existing consensus mechanism of DPoS. So that continues just like it has. We still select, on EOS, we continue to still select top 21 block producers. Those block producers would continue to now act as a block proposer and a block finalizer, and also a consensus leader in the same way that we kind of round robin through block proposers. So none of that changes, but what it does give us is the opportunity, by changing the foundation, to explore, if the community is interested, other ways of breaking up those roles. Let's see, Guillaume's not back yet, is he? Oh, I don't know if you can. Is your audio good, Guillaume, now, or should I continue?
Yeah, let's give it a try. Let's see here.
Okay, yeah. Oh, server muted.
Hello. Yeah, I've been back for a while. I was I was server muted, but thanks. That was great. That was a very, very good explanation, Areg. So couldn't have said it better myself. So there's another thing though I wanted to bring up, and which is quite interesting. Of course, as we started working on instant finality, one of the reasons personally I got interested in the topic was because, of course, I was working on IBC before that, inter-blockchain communication. And this is now giving us quite a few additional opportunities for IBC as well. The main one being, of course, the ability to shrink, to reduce the time to finality, and thus the time for IBC operations from about 3 minutes to a few seconds. So that's already very, very interesting on its own. But it also kind of unleashes a new, I guess, a new paradigm, if you want, in how light clients can interact with the blockchain. One of the key feature of the instant finality upgrade is we're essentially creating a new API in Leap that allows nodes to essentially provide information about the finality status of the protocol at any given point. And this can then now be leveraged by these light clients that would want to know what the state of a transaction, for example, they're interested in, might be, but without having to necessarily care about all of the other blocks, all of the other content of all the other transactions, and so on. So you can think of a number of new, I guess, ways to build applications that would not necessarily require you to run a full node. You can stay in sync with the network and verify that certain transactions were included, and that you can base your activity on, you can essentially take decisions based on these transactions without having to run necessarily the full blown Leap software. And that's kind of how we're doing it with instant with IBC. We're essentially having the two different blockchains act as light clients of each other. But now with this system, we're able to do that in a way that's a lot more, I guess, a lot more convenient from the application standpoint. So this is something I'm really excited about as well. I can see tons of applications from, a simpler mechanism for exchanges to, for example, list the EOS tokens or other tokens built on EOS or other Antelope chains. I can see also this being very useful for any dApp developer, really, that has the intention of building something that will require on-chain verification without necessarily wanting to run full nodes and things of the sort. So this is quite an important milestone, I think, for Leap as well, to have the ability and the convenience to do things like this without necessarily running the full node. So I don't know, I don't know yet what we will see that's going to be built on top of that, but I can definitely see a lot of opportunities from a feature like this. Is there anything else that we wanted to discuss, Areg, or should we maybe answer a few questions? I don't know if anyone
I can
has any
answer.
questions so far.
There's some questions. I think Primbot had a question. Oh no, your audio's cutting in and out again. Okay.
Areg, yeah.
Guillaume
Give it a
is
shot.
using Starlink. So
Yeah, I would definitely want to hear what Guillaume's opinion is on this question, but I'll give it a shot. So this question is, so why don't you think many chains have adopted hot stuff is so good? What are the downsides? So I don't have like a great answer to this, but I'll give you my kind of opinion, my speculation. So one of the things I think is relevant here is just the chronology of all this. Like people adopt consensus algorithms that seem pretty good at the time, and then there's further development that happens, and then there's sort of inertia that limits people from upgrading something that seems to be working well enough. Newer chains may be have this opportunity to choose the latest state of the art and adopt that. There are chains out there that have faster finality, low time to finality, even if they're not using hot stuff. There's different various other approaches that may be okay. One thing to keep in mind is there have been further attempts of improvements on top of hot stuff. We have evaluated some of those, but decided we're not. They're fairly new, and there's a risk associated with that because it's really important to have a system that is sound, that's safe, and has the papers prove safety and liveness. As you make tweaks to that, there's a risk that you're going to compromise that. So there's other advantages. There's other versions that built on top of hot stuff, changed it in some ways, claim to improve it. But there's a question of, does it compromise the safety or liveness properties that are desirable in hot stuff? And so we made a decision that some of these advantages weren't worth it for the risk of going for something kind of unproven. We wanted to stick with something that was well established, seems to be pretty straightforward in terms of having confidence in its properties and its proofs, and that still works well enough. I mean, we're talking about very fast process, low time to finality, basically driven by network conditions, really than anything else. One other thing I'll mention is like some networks, we could bring like Casper, like there's this legacy of using proof of work as the block proposal mechanism, if I can kind of bring it back to these roles, but then a gadget on top of that to add finality. And they have their reasons for wanting to keep that. But given the latency kind of constraints that come with the block proposal mechanism, it doesn't necessarily make sense to take advantage of things like optimistic responsiveness and some of the nice properties of hot stuff in that case. Now, why would they stick with that? I think there's an argument to be made. They make an argument, whether I completely agree with it or not, that this opens up like a different algorithm for block proposal, like proof of work, might open it up to anyone, create more decentralization perhaps in the block proposal side, even if ultimately finality is determined by some more closed off set of entities. For us, looking at the history of EOS, we have been operating with this system where we have a restricted set of entities that are somewhat trusted, selected by delegation, selected by the stakeholders, the token holders, and they've been acting as the block proposers and block finalizers. And so that seems to be somewhat accepted. So the block proposers being a set of, say, 21 or around there, could be more, but roughly around their number of entities that are trusted, seems to be working fine with EOS. And in that sense, there's no need to have a more we're not moving to a proof of work system, for example. And so we already have a very fast way of coming to a block proposal. And micro forks do happen, but they're very unlikely. So with that, I think the advantages that hot stuff provides become far more realizable for EOS than, say, some other chain like Ethereum. The other thing, though, to mention that is that that's the current case with EOS, but hot stuff, because of its linear signatures, the linear size, the BLS signatures, which allow for linearly aggregatable signatures, means that we can, with far less bandwidth issues, we can handle a much larger set of finalizers than we've been able to handle before. So this does open up the opportunity to increase the size of those sets, particularly the block finalizer set is something that could be considerably increased without hurting performance. So this does open up an opportunity to add to that decentralization if that was desired. I don't know. That's kind of my view of it. I don't know if Guillaume, if your audio is working, if you had anything else you could add in terms of disadvantages of hot stuff or alternatives, that how they compare.
I don't know if my mic is better. I switched microphones, so like hopefully that one works better. And yeah, like to add to what Areg was saying, I think there's it's a fairly new algorithm to
Yeah, audio problems again.
I guess you're doing this one solo, Areg.
Well, yeah, we'll see whatever Guillaume may want to add by text, but I basically already said my part of that, so maybe we can move on to, are there any other questions?
I think that was the only question so far I saw in the chat. People are a bit distracted here with the class action information that was shared in the chat. But if you guys have questions, now's the time. Write it in the chat. Join us on stage. We'll give it a few moments, and then we'll let Areg get back to developing Antelope. There we go. Trimbot coming in with a question here. Can we discuss the IBC potential with non-Antelope chains? Is that something that's going to be eventually possible?
So yeah, one thing we can talk about with regards to that is we were evaluating. Okay, so hot stuff does require, for its performance needs, for its scaling needs, it does require a cryptographic scheme for the signatures that allow you to aggregate them together. I referenced this before with the linearly aggregatable signatures, a milestone that was recently completed, by the way, by Guillaume's team. So that's going to be in, that's another protocol feature that's going to be in Leap 5.0. We're in the process of integrating that into the main branch right now. We decided, though, there's a few different options there, and we decided to go with BLS 12.381 specifically, and there's a whole new library that was developed by the Origin team and for this. So the reason we went with that, and in fact also the reason we went with a design for the host functions that's very similar to it's basically identical to the interface in an EIP in Ethereum, is because Ethereum 2.0 supports the same cryptographic scheme. And so we intentionally chose that particular one because it enables, let me back up a bit. So IBC requires on both ends of the chains that are communicating. So there's a source chain and a destination chain. On both chains, you need to have code, a contract, I guess, that will be able to validate the proofs of the consensus algorithm of the other chain. So one of the consensus upgrades that are going to be in Leap 5.0 are exposing the host functions that are going to be used by an Antelope smart contract, also being developed by Guillaume's team, to validate these quorum certificates, which require doing BLS signature validations. That's going to be needed for validating messages from other Antelope chains that are going to be using the same instant finality mechanism. But then the messages that are being sent by, say, EOS to another chain also need to be validated by the quorum certificates that are generated by instant finality on EOS. And so now when we're talking about IBC with another blockchain like Ethereum, we need to be able to validate those quorum certificates of EOS on an Ethereum smart contract. And yes, while technically Turing complete, you could run anything in theory, the reality is if you don't have the right precompiles, it's not, especially if you're trying to do cryptographic math, it's going to be too slow, too gas intensive, that it's just not economical. So we intentionally chose BLS. It satisfied our requirements, made a lot of sense. But one of the other benefits of that is that it would allow us to use the same precompiles that we're going to be using on EOS on the Ethereum side, so that the IBC contracts there could validate EOS's proofs. So yeah, there's no milestone as part of the IF or IBC work to build such contracts, but the technology, how we built both the IF and IBC milestones enables us to now more easily support IBC between Ethereum and EOS. Well, in the future, when IF is enabled anyway, it enables that. So I think I answered that well. I don't know, Guillaume, if you can't talk, if there's anything else you'd want me to talk about, you could text me, or if your audio is working, maybe you can add, but I think that covers it.
All right, maybe I can comment just a little bit. So you only basically talked about Ethereum validating EOS proofs, right? The other way around, it might not be as easy. I mean, it's of course doable, but it's like a lot more proofs to validate.
Well, because with them using BLS, because we have the host functions anyway for validating proofs between Antelope chains, we could leverage those same host functions to validate Ethereum's proofs as well.
Is Ethereum using BLS as well for their proofs, for their finality?
I believe that's the case, yeah, Ethereum 2.0.
Okay, thank you.
A couple more questions here came in the chat. Areg, I don't know if you want to address some of them.
So that was regarding Ethereum, and really anything else that's actually using BLS 12.381, any other chain like that could we would have the necessary foundations to quickly validate proofs on either side. That could enable IBC between potentially other chains beyond that. BTC is a completely different story. I know that Guillaume has ideas about how that could be done in a trustless way. Obviously, if you're willing to give up if you're willing to trust and have some sort of third party do things, then a lot of things become easier with regards to IBC. But the standard we're aiming for is trustless. The standard we're aiming for is to not add any more trust than the trust people already have for the consensus algorithm of the source chain. So that limits what you could do in terms of trustless IBC between EOS and Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I know Guillaume had some ideas there, but I'm not really aware if it's actually possible or not in a trustless manner. So that was kind of in reference to Trimbot's question of the cross-chain DEX of ETH, BTC, and USD. So the tokens live on these different blockchains. ETH on Ethereum, that's fine if we have a Ethereum EOS IBC connection in a trustless way. But and then of course we already have USDT on EOS. But the limits of getting other tokens across in a trustless way depends on the IBC also being trustless, which is a question, which is something that's you have to take on a case-by-case basis for every particular blockchain technology and the consensus algorithm it uses. Was there another question I'm missing? I think. Is it so far? Oh, here's one from Perry. The new hot stuff rules. So the question is about whether these new roles create specialized hardware requirements for block producers. So so once again, the rules, while the foundation allows them to be decoupled, with 5.0, we're continuing to keep them all coupled as a block producer. So nothing changes there. One of the things that's interesting but highly speculative at this point is if we were to decouple block production from block finalization, for example, then block finalization itself is not an intensive process, but you don't want to finalize blocks that are not valid, because part of finality as well is this attestation by the finalizers that this block is a valid blockchain, is the head of a valid blockchain. So block validation is what's more resource intensive. If there's a potential to maybe reduce the hardware intensity, the hardware requirements for a block validator, for example, if we could find ways to parallelize it more, this is all speculative leap implementation matters. So if there's a way to parallelize validation more, so you can use, say, lower clock cycle but more core, a machine that has more cores but lower clock cycles and still keep up with validation, and maybe those machines cost less, then that's an opportunity where a block finalizer could potentially run on cheaper hardware than what a block proposer uses. And if so, that's, again, a great opportunity to expand the number of block finalizers without necessarily expanding the number of block proposers. Because remember, yes, we could throw more, we can increase the numbers and claim we're more decentralized. It's the question if that's actually true or not, but it does come at a linearly increasing cost increase, because you have to compensate those nodes that are now being expending resources to validate things in an available manner. So there's a trade-off there of how much decentralization is worth it. If we could find ways through this decoupling to be more efficient with the hardware costs, then the trade-off point or the optimal point could be shifted further towards a more decentralized number. But that's highly speculative, so I don't want to comment too much more beyond that at this point. I don't know how much longer you'd like me to continue versus going on to other topics.
I think this was pretty good. I think you covered most of the questions here that I saw, so thank you for that.
Sure.
And yeah, I think we can wrap up the segment here. Thanks a lot for joining us, Areg. Thank you, Guillaume, as well, for joining us when your internet allowed you to do so. And yeah, I'm sure we'll continue to hear more about this upgrade that's coming on later in the year. All right, so let's keep going here. Maybe I'll touch real quickly about the class action lawsuit. There's some information shared in the chat. Remember that it's important to opt out if you don't want to participate in the current class action lawsuits against Block One. You can find some more information in the chat here on Discord. If you're listening in on YouTube or Twitter and you want to click these links, come join us on Discord, discord.gg/EOS-network. And then you can come in the voice chat and scroll back into this text chat to find all of the information here that was shared. We'll see if this gentleman wants to join us later for a fireside later on. Maybe we can get him on the stage with us later. Okay, moving on to another, a bit of housekeeping. The monthly raffle ticket for July is about to close. Got 9 minutes left to mint one. If you want to, you can grab some pop tokens on the market. They're going not too expensive these days. You can join the raffle. We're giving 250 EOS in prizes every month. Some EOS moments as well, and other NFT goodies can be found in there. For those of you who participated in the June raffle ticket, there was a bit of a lag on our ability to distribute these prizes, but we're working on improving our tools to make that easier in the future. But the June prizes are being distributed as we speak, so you can check your accounts later today. You should find yourself a June raffle pack that you can unpack when you want to, and the list of prizes are contained in the NFT attributes. So if you're wondering what you can find in your pack, you can check out the list of prizes. If you want to sell your pack on the market, let someone else open it up, potentially find the top prize of 50 EOS airdrop in there. There's a bunch of 10 EOS airdrops as well. And so, yeah, good luck to everyone who got our June raffle packs. And you can expect more raffle packs like this every month for those of you who mint some raffle tickets. All right, let's get back to the agenda. Next up here, I'd like to invite another popular character in the EOS community. Nathan James is with us today to talk to us about a new Twitter account that was recently released into the wild at Build on EOS on Twitter. Nathan James, welcome to Fireside.
Hello, everybody. So actually, I want to, before we talk about the Twitter account, there's new translations on the documentation. And this is one of the, I wouldn't say final steps, but the last steps that we really wanted to take on the documentation to make sure that they were ready for people to come into the ecosystem and learn as easily as possible. This also includes, I don't know if many of you have noticed, but there's a whole new journey for developers there, which tries to throw them as quickly as possible into learning smart contracts instead of having to learn a bunch of other stuff first. And now we're starting to focus on expansion mechanisms. So things like more Twitter spaces, more challenges, the Twitter account itself, ways to bring developers into the ecosystem, and less ways to create educational content for EOS, because we think that it's at a place where it's as good as we need it to be. This also includes, I don't know if you're going to get into this later in the call, in the fireside, but WharfKit just released their documentation today, which is yet another checkbox there of things that we've been waiting for. So onto the Twitter account. We have a new Build on EOS Twitter account. If you go and take a look at it, you're probably going to laugh your head off. It's quite excellent. It's being, I'm helping to run it, but it's not necessarily run by me. It's run by somebody else in the organization who's doing a fantastic and fabulous job at making it something developers actually want to go to, instead of something that's just like, oh, here's another account talking about really boring tech stuff. It is definitely a place for developers to congregate. It's a place for us to chat with other developers inside of other Web3 ecosystems as well as Web2 ecosystems. But it is meant to be a place that is a little bit more on the fun side. To top this off, I guess the last thing that I really wanted to give a thumbs up to is that we're working on a challenges initiative. This is going to be a place where you can come and you can either earn some respect I don't mean that as a token. I know that there's respect initiatives, but I mean literal respect, and earn some face time in front of people who might need builders in the community, as well as some EOS in the future, just by doing things that the network needs from a technical perspective. So this might be building example applications. This might be creating developer content. This might be going out to Twitter Spaces or to rating other firesides like these on other Web3 ecosystems. Actually turning this into a leaderboard where people can compete against each other to actually try to do their best to bring developers into our ecosystem.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Nathan, for that update. We are going to be talking about WharfKit a bit later on in the show with Aaron.
Sorry to jump the gun then.
No, that's fine. We can talk about it now. Actually, it is related. Aaron, are you ready to jump on the mic real quick?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, today we pushed out the new wharfkit.com website, which has some marketing materials basically explaining kind of what this project is, as well as documentation, guides, and a blog post that outlines today's announcement. And then alongside of that, we released version 1.0 of the session kit, which is one of the major components of Wharf. It is basically the replacement for most of the other tools that we've all been using to build applications, web applications specifically, for the past, I don't know how many years since the network launched. That's the session kit kind of is the next generation of all the tooling we've had previously. There are other components that are coming as part of this project. The blog post dives into that briefly as well as to what's next. One of the big ones, this is a tool we've never had before, is the contract kit. And it is a tool for working with smart contracts in web applications. It will simplify a lot of what developers have to go through and really optimize how these applications can interact with smart contracts in the network and hopefully reduce some load on the API operators out there. There's also a piece on this in the blog post as well that was shared in chat. This has been a long journey, and there is kind of a summary of kind of how we got to where we are today in this blog post, going all the way back to the blue papers back in late 2021 when that was started. This whole project came out of the Wallet Plus blue paper. Like, this was the first proposal in that blue paper, if you remember looking at it. It had a generic name. It was just called Software Development Kits, and it was identifying the need for something like this to exist to really accelerate the Web3 development aspects of EOS and Antelope blockchains. You know, that was all written before Antelope was a thing, I think, or right around the same time when that all started. This last couple of years has felt like decades. So yeah, I mean, that is kind of where we're at today. It's been a really long road getting here, and today's a pretty big milestone in releasing that 1.0 version of the session kit, and inviting developers to actually like use it, like build your applications with this now, like drop EOS.js, drop UAL, drop these old tools, and get involved on this side. I'm obviously fairly biased because I've been, working on this for I don't know how long now. But I really do think this is a significant step forward in the developer's experience, which is going to directly translate into the user's experience. And this is just the beginning. Like, there's so much more we can add to this framework to make things even better. If you've listened to the WharfKit calls, and we briefly touched on this a little bit, but one of the things we really want to do, it's not in the roadmap, but our team wants to do it, so we're probably going to do it anyways, is this idea of automatic signing and request for permission. Wharf's going to let us finally do that because we'll be able to do this kind of advanced signing process where you're playing a game and you're logged in. It's not going to pop up with Anchor or whatever application to ask you to sign these transactions you've authorized. It's going to let you do things in that application in a more immersive way and just keep you playing or doing whatever it is you're doing. Maybe it's a social app or something. This is a big key to making these apps familiar to Web 2.0 users and moving all of this forward. So I think
In that situation, who's paying for the resources? If I approve, transactions for the game, and then is that now kind of on the Wharf Kit side that's paying for the resources?
It would still be your account unless, like, independently, it can be either. Like, Wharf, the session kit in general will allow resource providers to kick in, cover resources like fuel. That was kind of one of the pitches in the blue paper was like, we have this cool technology in Anchor where we just co-sign transactions and we can do fees if you get excessive with your usage. That is now not an Anchor specific feature. It is now a Wharf feature. So any app using any wallet gets that feature now. The way that this request for permission I was talking about works is separate to that. Depending on the way the application's built and like what they have enabled, it's either going to be your account still paying for resources, just like it would if Anchor was signing or whatever, or it could be co-signed and the application could cover those resources.
Very cool. Sounds very flexible for developers.
That is why we started down this rabbit hole. I mean, you could go back to late 2019 when we were building Anchor and trying to use EOS.js, and it was not flexible enough for us. So we built EOS.io Core, which then turned into WharfKit Antelope and is now the foundation of this entire project. It's because we needed that flexibility, and we want to make sure that that flexibility is there for everyone else.
All right, awesome. Any questions from the crowd at this point for Aaron?
I've got a question.
Sure.
This is Perry. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
Are there any features in the new kit that would accommodate privacy, encrypted secrets, something that might be used to build something close to a password or secret manager?
No, there are not currently. I mean, it can interact with any external SDK that might do that and any smart contract that might process that information. But that secret style thing is kind of not in the scope of the application itself or in the SDKs itself.
Are you aware of anybody that's addressing that in the ecosystem?
I mean, I know there's a couple privacy-centric tokens that are being developed, and those would be able to use these SDKs for their web interfaces. But as far as like user-centric secrets, like a password manager or something, or encryption schemes or private messaging or anything like that, I don't know them off the top of my head. I honestly, I'm kind of behind on ecosystem news simply because my focus has been this. It's been on Wharf since the beginning of the year, really.
Why do you think that's not been a priority? Because it seems like that would be pretty high priority. Maybe I'm biased about that.
I guess I'm not even entirely sure what the use case would be. I mean, if somebody were to build an application that focused on whatever this feature is you're kind of alluding to, it could be done. I don't know. I guess I don't know enough to speak to this.
I could very quickly describe it because, well, I've thought about it quite a bit, but it's also come up. It's kind of front and center in our internal Eden on EOS discussions because we're all trying to figure out how do we maintain control, decentralized control of all of our assets, of our Twitter accounts, of our GitHub accounts, and all of these things that pass between terms of elected officials. So, in an ideal world, we'd have a blockchain-based tool that we could use, that we could trust, that would allow us to move control of those from elected term officials to elected term officials. That's one application, but the obvious one is, let's get a password manager on the blockchain, or let's have a bank account that's actually private, or it just goes on from there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see the benefit in that, and I could see applications being built that leverage the public keys available to accounts and then perform that encryption. It could be stored on the blockchain. It could be stored on IPFS, like the actual encrypted data could be. It could kind of go in any medium once it's encrypted using the private keys, or not the private keys, but the public keys of the accounts that should have access to it. I mean, I guess I don't see a reason why that couldn't be built, but I think Wharf's relation to all of this would be that it could facilitate any sort of transaction signing that's involved in this process, but most of that work would actually be happening off-chain, outside of a smart contract specifically.
Is there a policy against developing such a thing that you're aware of?
No, I mean, anybody's free to build whatever they want with these systems.
Within your group?
Within my team?
Yeah.
No, we just have higher priorities, like making the tools that allow people to build things like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Perry, for that question. Thanks, Aaron, for updating us, and congratulations on the Wharf Kit milestone you guys reached today.
Thanks. If there's any other questions, feel free to reach out.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Okay, next up, I'd like to invite Laura, the marketing manager at the ENF, to talk to us a bit about this month's upcoming crypto conference in Toronto.
Hey,
Laura, welcome to the Fireside. Yeah, a bit low, but yeah, coming in clear.
Perfect. I'll see if this helps, hopefully. So I think this is my first time here on Fireside. I'm Laura. I go by LMC, and I'm the new marketing manager here at ENF. I work with Zach, Brandon, and Liam as a part of the marketing and comms team. So the ENF, and by ENF, it's going to be me, Liam, and a couple other people are going to be at the Blockchain Futurist conference in Toronto on August 15th to 16th. It's actually the biggest blockchain Web3 GameFi, all of the above conference in Canada. And the ENF is actually a sponsor of the ETH Women Hackathon. So Leon and myself and the team's going to be there getting up to some shenanigans. We have some super fun things planned for socials. And I know that some of the team from Antelope will be there as well. I'm also going to be speaking on a panel in Women in Web3, along with some other amazing women from XBC Tech, like Google Women Tech Makers, and the founder of Women in Blockchain Canada on August 16th, which should be really cool. So stay tuned to our socials, and if you can make it to Futurist, hope to see you guys there.
Awesome. Yeah, a couple of us from the EOS Nation and Pinax team are going to be there as well in Toronto. So definitely let us know if you're out there. Definitely come say hi if you see us out there. All right, next up, we've got the Pomelo Season 6 Analysis Report. This has been published just a couple days ago, and I'm going to give a quick overview here of the report. I'm sure that you guys are interested in learning about what we discovered during the analysis period. To cut to the chase, the claims are going to be opening next week. So if you've got a grant in, the deadline to submit an appeal for this analysis is August 8th. So that's Tuesday, August 8th. And then claims are going to open up in the days following that deadline. So everyone should be able to claim their EOS next week if you've had a successful grant in Pomelo Season 6. I shared the link of the article in the chat. I'm going to go over some of the highlights here in the article that I found interesting when reading this over a couple of days ago. So the analysis and resulting adjustment caused $16,700 to be returned to the matching pool to be distributed. So this is actually about twice as much as Season 5. So we saw an increase there in the amount of adjustment, but still much lower than previous seasons like Season 3 or Season 4. There were 2 grants that were disqualified during the application submission. Captain Black Bill and Wiz Network are grants that were disqualified. At first glance, these grants appeared to be known projects with established reputations, but were found out to be fraudulent. For example, the true owner of the project outlined in Captain Black Bill was able to confirm to us that he was not the one that created the grant. So those 2 grants were disqualified. And then there were also a couple of grants that had reduced matching allocations due to Cybele pattern detection. The grant Bit Beasts had minus 99% reduction. Basically, looks like all of these donations were Cybele attacks, so it was reduced from $8,800 down to $100. And the EOS Ecosystem Dashboard Grant had a reduction of 35%. And so there were some patterns of Cybele attack that were detected, and those donations have been collapsed and do not count towards the matching prize allocation. Just a quick reminder, there is a 20% fee to each donation that is taken from donations of a Pomelo season and applied to the matching pool of the next season. So these donations that get collapsed for Cybele detection, 20% of those donations are actually given to projects for the future season. So that's one of the mechanisms that Pomelo uses to disincentivize Cybele attacks. A couple of grants had reduced matching allocation due to self-donation. So Telos Astral Quest had minus 58% and EOS India had minus 3%. And there's a bit more information in the article if you want to read up on it. Like I said, the appeal period is currently ongoing. If you want to appeal a decision, you can send your appeal to support@pomelo.io by August 8th. And then in the following days, claims will be enabled and you will receive an email with instructions on how to complete your Know Your Client screening, KYC, if you haven't done that already. If you have done it already, then you won't have to do that, and then you can just go simply collect your matching funds. And then final thing I want to highlight here, the top 3 grants of Season 6 per pool. So for the EOS EVM pool, with 23 approved grants, we had EOS EVM name service coming in as the top recipients of the matching allocation with $13,000. Noah Swap, second place with $12,000, and MetaHub, third place with also just under $12,000. As for EOS GameFi, we had 13 approved grants in that pool. Pink Cat Eating Papaya, New Chat, and NFT Game Stats all reached the maximum allocated amount, which is, I believe, $13,000 here that they each received. For the Everything EOS pool, with 63 approved grants, Top 3 were the social recovery for the Recover Plus portal, DAObox, an open source governance tool, and EOS ecosystem dashboard. Each of these grants getting between $3,000 and $2,000. And then for Telos, with 19 approved grants, Open Block Explorer, Antelope Tools, Network Monitoring Dashboard, and the Fortis Name Service API, each earn $4,800, and $4,000 in matching allocation. So congratulations to all of the successful grants this season. And we look forward to seeing you return for season 7. Last little nugget of information I want to share here is that, having a dedicated pool for GameFi. Okay, hold on. Yana, I'm going to server mute you. You can unserver mute you later on if you want. So having a dedicated pool for GameFi was able to really push up the amount of GameFi projects that applied to Pomelo. In season 5, it was less than 1% of projects were GameFi, whereas in this season, it was 29%. So a huge increase, which really showcases one of the main benefits of the pools in Pomelo, which is to really target specific types of applications to join the season. And then there's other stats in there in terms of distribution, geographical locations, the types of grants, all that stuff. So I encourage you to read more on that if you participated in Pomelo Season 6. All right, GTA here in the chat letting me know that the unpacking is working. There's a slight error there early on, but looks like it's been fixed. That's great. Good luck with your unpacking. Let us know if you find the top prize of 50 EOS in your pack. All right, let's keep it going here. Got a couple topics left. There you go, Yana. Unserver mute yourself. That's right. So EOS EVM roundup. Let's talk a bit about that like we do every week. We've got Gate.io integrating the EOS EVM directly into their exchange. So this is the biggest exchange that I've heard of that has directly integrated EOS EVM. So that's obviously good news to see. I know Zach is working a fair amount on these types of initiatives. Zach, did you want to add something about this Gate.io integration?
Yeah, so Gate.io is the first centralized exchange to natively support the EOS EVM. So it's like the highest level of support that we could achieve with an exchange. Hopefully, more exchanges will be onboarded over the coming months, but Gate.io is first. What I mean by native support is similar to when you deposit or withdraw USDT, let's say, to an exchange, and whenever you go to your wallet to get your deposit or withdraw address, you have the drop-down menu where it asks you, okay, which chain do you want to deposit or withdraw your tether from? It's like that, but for the EOS token. So whenever you're on Gate.io and you go to withdraw your EOS tokens, you have the option in a drop-down menu to select EOS EVM. And then from there, it is just a very standard look for any other Ethereum-based chain, which is a single text field asking for your Ethereum public key. That's the best way to do it. It's also the most frictionless because even though we do have the ability to withdraw from all centralized exchanges to the EOS EVM, there still is external knowledge that's required to know, like, for example, that there's an EOS account name called eosio.evm that you need to put into the account field. And then in the memo field, copy and paste your public key. So that's the big difference here, is that it doesn't require any knowledge of those privileged accounts. And like I said, hopefully more exchanges will be supporting that soon. But Gate.io is first. Super excited to see it.
All right, thanks, Zach. And looking forward for more integrations from exchanges with the EOS EVM.
I guess one more thing is that there's just So right now, you could withdraw from any exchange using the EOS-IO EVM account. But there's still certain centralized exchanges that are blocked from the front end of the bridge. And the reason we've talked about it multiple times, but that's a feature called inline actions. And I just wanted to give the update that we're continuously having conversations with exchanges. It does require infrastructure changes, which adds engineering costs to the centralized exchanges. So that's kind of the reason it's been going a little bit slower than we would have liked. But that work's continuing also, and we'll be making announcements as each centralized exchange supports the inline actions, which will allow deposits into the exchange directly from EOS EVM.
All right, good stuff. Another EOS, actually not necessarily EOS EVM news for now, might become in just a bit. Here we've got a tweet from Pyth Network saying that they're excited to release the EOS USD price feed. So from what I understand, this is a network that is an Oracle, distributes price feeds to a bunch of different blockchains, and now they've added the EOS USD price feed to 25 plus blockchains. So I don't think the Pyth network is on the EOS EVM yet with the Oracle, but I'm speculating that maybe they'll be enabling it on the EOS EVM in the near future. So
you might be onto something there, Steph. You might be onto something there.
There you go.
And Pyth, they're actually the second most widely used Oracle service. So everyone kind of knows about Chainlink, but the next most used one is Pyth. So I just dropped a link to DeFi Llama on the text chat, and you can see there's two oracles in between. But if you look at them, they only support like one protocol each or two protocols each. So as far as oracles that support multiple blockchains, it's Chainlink and then Pyth.
Very cool. I didn't even know there was an oracles section on DeFi Llama. Cool stuff. What is TVS? What does that mean? Do you know?
Total value secured, but I am not sure of what the definition of it is, unless it's like maybe some proof of reserves thing. I'm not really sure. It's an Oracle service, so it's not like the same as TVL.
That's what I mean, right?
Sure.
Interesting.
Yep.
If anyone knows, let us know. If not, maybe we'll update you next week when we find out. But cool. Thank you very much, Jack, for that extra context. All right, and then rounding up our EOS EVM news today, there's a new blog post on the ENF blog about Owlando being powered by EOS, the blog series called #PoweredByEOS, how Owlando leverages EOS to unleash gaming creativity. So I read this article this morning. Again, I'm going to highlight a few of the more interesting parts of this article. And so, in the biggest sense of the word, Owlando seeks to reward players for exploring the infinite possibilities of social sandbox gaming. So what does that mean? Well, Owlando takes pride in its user-centric design, where creators can wield their imagination and contribute to levels, characters, or new game modes. So it's really a way to enable anyone in the Web3 space to build these games on chain. So creators earn compensation whenever a player purchases or uses their work, and the platform hosts regular contests to reward exceptional creators. So Owlando recently won third place in the Web3 innovation competition organized by Be Water. The accolade has captured industry experts' attention and validation. This amplified visibility attracts potential collaborators and underscores Owlando's potential for future growth and success. So EOS is central to Owlando's revolutionary approach to gaming. The EOS Network and the EOS EVM play crucial roles in validating, protecting, and promoting the ingenuity of Owlando users. So by embracing EOS, Owlando has expedited its mission of providing a community of global gamers with seamless and user-friendly on-chain gaming experience. Owlando's integration with the highly performant EOS network enhances its capability to protect user creativity without sacrificing performance or UI responsiveness. So through this interoperability between EOS Native and EOS EVM, Owlando allows people to build game scenarios on-chain, allowing users to harness seamless on-chain services. So, as a recap, Owlando is the next generation social game builder and gaming platform that incentivizes user-generated content, UGC. It harnesses the power of the EOS blockchain to protect and monetize gamers' creativity. And with thousands of existing users, the platform's growth shows no sign of slowing down. Get involved, create your games, and shape the future of gaming with Owlando. So check out the article if you want to learn more. And check out the platform if you're interested in creating user-generated content for games secured on EOS. All right, and then finally here, last topic of the day. Just wanted to share. It is Chinese content, but it's been getting a good amount of engagement. Basically, this is a review of the Q2 quarterly report. And I'm just going to share a picture here to show how much fun the Asian community has here in these videos. You can see the host has this virtual headset and glasses and bunny ears. And to be honest, I was quite jealous when I saw her setup. I feel like I need something like that for when I host a hot sauce. Anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. I thought it was pretty cool. So that's it for our list of scheduled topics. At this point, of course, open mic. If any of you have any other updates you want to share, maybe you want to tell a joke, maybe you want to talk about the crazy DeFi action that's been going on in the last couple of days with Curve. Anything and everything is on the table at this point. Yeah, so join me on stage if you want. Does anyone have any updates from the Curve founders' loans across all these DeFi protocols? I was following that story a bit over the last few days. Haven't seen any updates today. Basically, if you haven't heard, the Curve founder put up half of all existing Curve tokens, which he controlled, onto these DeFi platforms, took out big loans, bought a mansion or two, and then there was a hack on the Curve platform that allowed a hacker to steal a good amount of Curve, and which, if that Curve was to be sold in the market, could trigger a cascade of liquidation on all of these large stacks of Curve tokens that are currently spread out across a bunch of DeFi protocols. And so it was kind of a hairy moment for the DeFi space over the last few days. From yesterday's updates that I saw, seems like the Curve founder sold a decent amount of CRV tokens, OTC deals, to a bunch of big players in the space, allowing him to get some much needed stable coins to reduce his loan to value ratio across these protocols. Trimbot was out there on the side of cheering for the liquidation hunting. He says it would have been healthy for DeFi. Maybe it would have destroyed all of DeFi. No, probably not. I think the system would have survived. However, it would have been some massive swings.
You're talking as if this is over.
I don't know. I haven't had updates today, and the last updates I got from yesterday was like he was paying back some of his loans and reducing his risk ratio. Fraxland interest rate stopped going crazy. I don't know. Maybe it's not over.
There's a lot of money to be made by short sellers. I wouldn't put it past anyone to try to liquidate them. It just kind of shows one of the big risks with DeFi whenever you have single entities or single individuals with large token supplies. As the founder of the project, I think he held something like 40% of the token supply and had it all as collateral on OV. So the biggest risk here is that if his position were to get liquidated, on OV, they have like an insurance fund to kind of cover some of the bad debt that the lending protocol would pick up. He's also has a large position on another protocol. I can't remember. That's FraxLend. If he gets liquidated on FraxLend, it's a big issue because it socializes the bad debt. Because not only would Curve's liquidity get eaten up, it can't absorb as large of a position as he holds. So the price would cascade downwards. And then all of these now very low value Curve tokens, basically the entire founder's stash would get distributed amongst all of the lenders on Curve, or not on Curve, on FraxLend, and to a lesser extent Aave. So what that means is he borrowed USDT and other stable coins against his Curve, which seems like a good thing. People do it all the time. You think about paper billionaires like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. That's exactly what they do. They hold large stock positions against their companies, and then they borrow against it to buy other things and increase their wealth. The most probably notable example that people in this call are aware of is when Elon Musk took out a multi-billion-dollar loan against his own Tesla stock to buy Twitter, essentially. And now he's rebranding it to X. So it's a very common thing that people do because it's looked upon as like it's not selling. He was leveraging his tokens in DeFi, but the risk is that it's such a large percentage of the supply that there's no possible way a market could absorb that much sell pressure at once. So there's other DeFi protocols that have been rushing to kind of fix, or not fix, but put preventative measures into their lending system. So, for example, having a cap on how many tokens could be collateralized on a single lending protocol. That's one example. So Aave, for example, did not have that, but a rule could be put in place, for example, that says, okay, our lending protocol will not allow more than, let's say, 10% of the total token supply to be collateralized. Or maybe it has after 10%, you get less and less loan to value ratios, for example. But it's not over. I'm watching. I think his liquidation price the other day they were saying was 35 cents. I don't know how that's changed with the OTC deals going on. And I also saw that there's a lot of people. So there's a lot of liquidation hunters. But on the other side of the coin, there's also a lot of very wealthy people who are heavily invested in the DeFi and seeing it succeed and survive. So I saw some tweets earlier talking about how the bids on like Binance and some of the larger exchanges, there's huge like bid walls on the buy sides of the order books to absorb any selling pressure to make sure that the token price doesn't go below a certain value because of the cascading risk to all of DeFi if that position were to get liquidated.
Yeah, I'm not personally exposed, I don't think, to any of this. I don't have any money on those lending protocols. I don't hold any Curve or anything like that. So it is kind of interesting to see. And it is one of the things that is very exciting about blockchain is that all of these positions, everything is public, right? And transparent and open for anyone to check, which makes these liquidation hunters, being able to kind of go out there, see the liquidation levels, trying to get the price to go to those levels to buy the cheap tokens. And then, like you say, you've got other whales on the other side putting up buy walls to prevent it. All very exciting for sure. 4.5 hours ago, I've got a bot here on Telegram, Binance Futures liquidation, that I use to kind of just keep an eye on the overall price movements. There was a short liquidation of a CRV position earlier today at 60 cents a CRV. So it's definitely not over. Still some action. All the other tokens seems like we're going down in price, and then you see a short liquidation on CRV. Always interesting to see.
Rotation of assets. I mean, you hold any number of other DeFi tokens. What's more, like, it depends on who you are. But if you're an asset manager or a VC holding like hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of liquidity across many DeFi protocols, it's in your best interest to swap some of whatever else you're holding, any coin really, for Curve to protect the price. I think that's going on in a kind of like a decentralized manner.
The other thing that was interesting, this highlighted, was actually in regards to oracles. So we talked about Pyth earlier in the show. I think the price of Curve on chain went down below the founders' liquidation prices, but on centralized exchange, it didn't go down as much. And then, I don't know, I saw a couple of tweets. I think this is Chainlink, and some people were saying, like, there's a couple of accounts that really can override these price oracles. And apparently there was maybe some adjustments made to that CRV price to not take into consideration the low price on chain that happened for probably a short amount of time to prevent this liquidation cascade to start. So I don't know if you heard anything more about that, Zach. But that was another interesting aspect of this whole situation.
But that's different DeFi protocols have gotten into big trouble by doing things like that, by like hard pegging an asset, for example. There have been DeFi protocols that have been exposed by like hard pegging to US Tether, for example, or to a specific stablecoin, like UST, for example. And if you just peg it to $1 rather than relying on an oracle to like get you the real-time price data from like an aggregation of centralized and decentralized exchanges, when you just hard peg an asset to some other price, it's been exploited many times in the past. So I don't know the specific example you're talking about though, but yeah, I don't. It's not good if they're overriding prices. Unless they're just overriding like low liquidity dexes or something like that. There's more liquidity on centralized exchanges than in any DEX, even more than Uniswap. Yeah. So it probably is safer to kind of use the price feeds from where the market makers are.
The other big news this week, Richard Hart and Hex getting sued by the SEC. Probably comes as a surprise to no one. But interesting to see how that'll play out.
Stefan, I've got a question that I'd like to ask a third party. I'd like to ask Trimmy question. Shintai has just today, the CTO Philip has announced a new program, I guess you'd call it, and I haven't caught up on all of the messages. I'm wondering if Trimmy could give us an overview of the program that as he sees it, and just share what he thinks about what Philip has done.
Trimmy, is that a standard nickname for Trimbot?
I think so. Yeah, among me and my friends, it is. Yeah.
All right, Trimmy. So yeah, I read a message actually from Shintai. Just I was doing the show prep for today. I didn't include it in the agenda because I didn't really have time to dig into it. But it seems like they've built an AMM that they want to deploy on EOS, and they've got some plans to reward liquidity providers. So it did seem interesting, and they mentioned something about a release sometime in August. So hopefully, we learn more about that in the coming weeks, and hopefully they come on the Fireside to talk to us more about this project.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't have anything other than a screenshotted message. I could not even verify the source. I imagine it was from the Shintai Telegram channel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, from the unofficial
Shintai channel. There you go. If you've got those links, Perry, maybe you want to share them in the chat. If people are curious, they can go check it out themselves. until we get official confirmation from the team.
Good stuff. I had a topic I wanted to share. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hey Jan, welcome back to the Fireside. It's been a little bit since I've seen you in here.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. Been working.
What have you been up to?
Well, I wanted to just post an update about one of my grant proposals about 3D NFTs. So basically, I mean,
this is on Pomelo, right? This was a Pomelo grant, if
yes,
I remember
that's right.
correctly.
Yeah, so a lot of the work, like we started, was I mean, it's an open source concept, and so part of the article that I've written was like a modeling workflow, and so I've like my background is in architecture and energy modeling, but the approach that I wanted to take was really to share this kind of concept of creating 3D objects, 3D NFT objects, and so even for me, like I took an approach where it's developing a non-manifold geometry, and so it's a different approach of creating these structures, these 3D structures. But part of this, it's all open source. It's all you can make scripts, and then so part of this workflow that we did was, we built this mesh, this really simple mesh, just to test the features for 3D NFTs, for GLB files and such. And part of this kind of journey that we took, or that I took, was is that we apply these scripts, so we have styles and space parameters, and so we can start to really eventually create these geometry nodes and these large data sets of versions of these models. And so anyways, I thought, I mean, there's a lot of techniques that that I cover in this article, but I just want to really share some of, I guess, where we've kind of arrived, and I guess maybe like where we're at, and I think probably where really our industry and architecture is going, and really where it's intersecting with the open source technology, and then where EOS or NFTs in general are really going. And so, and I think I just wanted to leave it, just introduce this topic if people had questions or want to talk about it. But where I see things going next, it's, I've heard of like recursive ordinals. So like referencing, basically we can have 3D files that have a ton of data, meshes, and all kinds of properties, and we can create many versions of these 3D files and even link the versions to each other and actually kind of phase in, like say for a building.
Your volume's really low. Maybe speak closer to the mic.
Okay, well, anyways,
oh, there we go. That's better.
Oh, is that better? Okay. So anyways, so now like I guess the state of where we're at kind of in our industry with open BIM technologies, that, we can start to do git commit pushes to these, open data files, these IFC files that, I talk about an IFC file, but it all doubles in a 3D world as a GLB file or any sort of analysis, as long as you can get the semantics right. And that's why I created this non-manifold geometry. It's more scriptable, and anyways, it's just a concept that I think a lot of people can just share. And I think there's a lot of Blender artists out there, and so I think that's really one like the playing field where everyone kind of comes together. And I'm creating, and GLB files is not that sophisticated, but I think there's a lot of cool opportunities that lie within these 3D objects, and really how to interpret them, and really what to do with them, and how much more we can really build on top of it. And so I mean, thanks for sharing that article in the chat. But I just want to bring that up with you guys and see what you think.
Great, awesome. Thanks for updating us on your Pomelo project during the off season. We like to encourage that these days. And if anyone's listening to this, want to continue the conversation, join us on Pomelo Telegram channel in the shill and share progress topic. Jean posted some of his updates there earlier today, and so you can always jump in there and join the conversation, ask some questions if you want to at some later point. All right, thanks for joining us, Jean. Thanks for the update.
Thanks.
Looks like we won't make it to 2 hours today. First time in a long time. Well, we're pretty close, only 15 minutes, 15 more minutes. We did get some nice attendance today. I think I saw 86 people joining at the same time on Discord. Very cool. Plus, of course, everyone else watching on Telegram, on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining us from out there, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things. Help us increase the engagement on this content and help us spread this content across the internet and crypto space. Nathan James mentioned they're doing more Twitter spaces these days. I was invited on a couple of them recently. Just yesterday, I hosted one on the intersection of GameFi and DeFi. It was pretty interesting. Had a couple representatives from a couple projects from across different networks. Had a nice conversation. You can check out that recording probably on the ENF Twitter newsfeed. All right, last call to register for your POP tokens for today. Get on over there in the POP bot chat, sign up, get your POP token, blend 4 of them into your monthly raffle ticket, and then hopefully we'll be able to distribute the prizes for the July monthly raffle sometime in the next week. There's a new distribution tool for NFTs on EOS that I'm going to be test driving next week. So I'm hoping we'll be able to use that tool to distribute these raffle packs more quickly in the future. As for the June raffle packs, I think most of those have been distributed by now. Maybe just a couple more that are left to be distributed. But if you held your raffle ticket for June, check your account. All of them just now. There you go. Thanks, Yana, for confirming. So if you had a June raffle ticket, check your account. You can open up your raffle pack, and good luck finding some EOS moments, or even some party crackers. All right, I guess that's it for today. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for those who participated in today's conversation. Big thanks to our superstar guests that joined us today. We had Gnome, we had Areg, we had Nathan James, we had Aaron, some of the top devs in the space joining us today. Always fun to hear from them, even though I may not understand everything. So that's gonna wrap it up for today. Hope everyone has a good week, and we'll do it all over again next week. Bye bye everyone, and let's go